Today, join me as I react with you to Jim Rohn as he talks about habits and discipline and what we can do to become more successful. And at the end, I'll share one of my tips that I use to stay disciplined as well in business. All right, here we go.
And letting go of limitations. Here are what I consider to be the biggest self-imposed limitations any man or woman has ever had to deal with. First, procrastination. Procrastination is particularly life-threatening because when we put something off, it doesn't seem at the moment to be all that important.
I love how he just goes there to procrastination, right? How many of us as business owners have been in, I like to think of it as analysis paralysis, right? We're thinking about something and thinking about something, and we are procrastinating, but sometimes we're also just really stuck in our thoughts. At least I have had that happen. So Jim Rohn sadly passed away in 2009, and for many of us, he was like one of the founders of the personal development industry. And I had the pleasure of seeing him speak, almost 20 years ago, I would say. And I'll never forget it. I was sitting in the front row with one of my good friends, Kim, and he was like right there. And I remember thinking just what a legend he was, how he handled a platform, like his ability to just stand in one spot, just to deliver his talk in such a professional and connecting way. And I remember just being so inspired by Jim. And so today, as I listen to him, it's a reminder of the things that he was sharing then, and what he shared then, of course, stands today. And again, he's starting with procrastination because I think as business owners, that's one of our biggest challenges. And if you can relate to that, if you can relate to procrastinating in your business or getting into analysis paralysis where you just can't seem to move forward, definitely share in the comments below because I want to hear from you. All right, let's see what else Jim has to share.
At the end of the day, if you have let a few things slide, it doesn't seem like such a bad day. However, enough of those days piled up will make a disastrous year, and eventually, a disastrous life. Our inability to come to grips with a natural tendency to procrastinate will surely send us drifting in the wrong direction. Before you reach the final session of this program, you'll have left procrastination behind. If you're still troubled by it, you'll have discovered that it's simply too costly to put up with any longer. Besides, you'll be too excited about where you're going to postpone the activities taking you there. Self-imposed limitation number 2. Blame. All of us have blamed others for our troubles from time to time. In fact, the tendency to blame someone or something goes back a long way. When there were only 2 people on earth, it wasn't long before they started blaming. The man said, "It was the woman. She got me into this." And the woman blamed the serpent.
Blaming's been happening for a minute, hasn't it? It's interesting, how far back he's tracing this in terms, all the way back in the Bible that he's pointing to. So what he's saying is it's easy to blame other people. It's easy to blame situations. And when I think back to the last Great Recession around 2008, 2009, and then I think about the most recent pandemic that we went through as business owners, it was easy to blame those times, right? Like why our businesses weren't doing well or why we might have been struggling. But when I look back, for me, because I was surrounded by great leaders, like people who were really pushing me to keep going, it helped me stay in business. In fact, in 2009, I launched a new division of my company. And some people might have said it was the worst time to be doing that. And for me, I thought, well, this is the best time because people need to know how to sell more than ever. That's when one of my first courses, Sales Camp, was actually created. It was born out of necessity to grow my company during one of the greatest recessions, and also born out of the necessity of helping others grow their businesses through a very difficult time. And so we always have that opportunity, right, to either blame a situation or, as I've learned over the years, to look for opportunity in what might seem like a struggle or what might seem like a really difficult time. There's always opportunity that's being born out of those challenges.
Blame seems to be one of those negative tendencies that just comes naturally. The ego striving to defend itself. Remember the list I came up with to explain why I wasn't doing well? One of the items that was high on my list was prices. I told Mr. Schoaf that my problem was everything costs too much. However, he soon set me straight on that by saying, "Mr. Rohn, that is not the problem. Let me tell you the real problem. You can't afford it." It's not it. If you keep dealing in it's, you will always be broke, unhappy, and disillusioned because you will never have enough. Don't deal in it's. Deal in you. When I finally learned to change my thinking from it to me, I changed my whole life.
That's a great point of, looking outward. It's like we can blame it, or we can look at ourselves and ask ourselves, what's our perspective on this? And you don't have to do it in a way that's blaming yourself, right? But just shift it and say, how am I seeing this? Because so much of our success is based on our perspective of how we view a certain situation. Is this a bad thing that's happening, or is there opportunity in this moment right now? And as business owners, we learn, and I'm sure you've learned this as well, and definitely share in the comments if you've learned to find opportunity in the most challenging of times. Because when we do that, our businesses continue to grow.
What a life-changing experience to finally meet someone who doesn't hesitate to put it on you or on your tendency to indulge in blame or procrastination. That is indeed a banner day when you meet someone who has learned how to skillfully and carefully attack the same problem that has kept you from doing very well, or kept you beneath your potential, or kept you off balance as to your own self-worth. It is so easy to mistake appearances for reality, to confuse the symptom with the real cause. Along with blame comes the third negative tendency we want to eliminate: excuses. Guess how many excuses we have? 1 million. And in the course of a lifetime, we will probably use them all, unless somebody finally comes along and blows all those excuses apart to make us come face to face with the real reasons for our current dilemma. Until that time, we will probably use another 1 million excuses to prevent ourselves from having $1 million. Here's one of the major questions.
I love that. I don't love it. I don't love that Jim's reminding us that we have excuses, and often those excuses aren't true. I do love that he's reflecting it back to all of us, though, because I know I come up with excuses sometimes that don't make any sense, or, those excuses they're not real, right? It's just what my ego mind is saying to protect myself, or because I'm in such great resistance about whatever it is I don't want to do. And often when we want to grow our businesses, and he's talking about $1 million, when you want to grow your business to 7 figures, what you're doing today, if you're at 6 figures or multi-6 figures and you want to go to 7 figures, what you're doing in your business today is not going to be what you're doing then. It's also not what's going to get you there. And yet, this is one of the most challenging things, I think, as entrepreneurs, is for us to see what we have to do differently, because it's always something we don't want to do, right? Like it's always... It's something that's going to challenge us. It's something that's going to stretch us. It's something that's going to force us to take a risk. And oftentimes we see people who will think to ourselves, man, I know that person's probably not, they're not smarter than me. We're the same when it comes to intelligence. They didn't come from a better family than I did. Like they don't seem like there's not any different advantages that they have. But what's different is they might not have any excuses. What's different is they might be willing to take the risks. What's different is they don't get stuck in resistance. What's different is they don't stop. That's all that's different. And that's what he's talking about right here. It's like when we get into blame and we get into excuses, then we stop. And when we stop, our business stops with us. And our business can only be doing 2 things. It's either moving forward or it's dying.
I'll pose to you during this program. What are you going to do starting today that will make a difference in how your life works out? Good question, right? What are you going to do? See, if you don't do something starting today that will make a difference, guess what? It's going to be the same.
So let's wrap up with that. What are we going to do today that's different? What are you going to do today that's different? What am I going to do that's different? At the beginning, I mentioned that I was going to share one of my secrets for staying disciplined. Hopefully this is helpful for you. And maybe this is one of those things that you can add to what you're already doing. And it's going to seem like such a small thing that you're going to think it's not a big deal. But here's what I know. I know that not many people do this thing. And I know that if they do it, they don't do it consistently. And here it is. I want you to write down those things every single day that move your business forward. Not just a to-do list that's, you want to have a to-do list, Definitely. Like, these are the things that need to get done. On that to-do list, I also want you to have those things that move your company forward. What are those key things? We call them needle movers. What are those key things that are going to move, like tick your business forward? Those are the things that you have to have on your list, right? And those are the things that I want you to do first. That's what most people don't do. Most people do their busy work first, right? They answer their emails, they answer their phone calls, but they don't choose those top 3 things that they know are going to push the company forward. That's one thing that I've really trained and disciplined myself to do, is to make my to-do list every single day and then to mark out those things that I know that are going to move the company forward, and then I do those things. Next up, Glengarry Glen Ross, coffee is for closers. And remember, your 2X is waiting for you too.